We're here at the Harvard Kennedy School's Shorenstein Center with Nancy Youssef. Youssef is a national security correspondent for the Wall Street Journal. She's here to talk about foreign policy, politics, and media. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you.
A lot of your work focuses on you covered civilian casualties in the Iraq War, and it focuses on people and kind of the humanity. Can you talk about why that's important, or why you choose to tell a story that way?
Yeah. It started actually, my first sort of major conflict was the 2003 invasion of Iraq. And for me, it started as a way to measure hearts and minds. The U.S. was saying we were there to win hearts and minds. And that was a tangible metric. And then it's just sort of evolved since then, because these wars are so unconventional, right? There are no front lines anymore, and now you have civilians in the middle. And the consequences, I've seen them firsthand. When you hurt somebody accidentally or kill somebody or destroy their property, you can actually see the effects of it, that it creates an enduring problem.
We're kind of at a point now where I think there's a growing fear in America about another war. We're talking a lot about nuclear proliferation. What are the realistic dangers there?
Well, I have to tell you, I look at it as a military correspondent, and so for me, what I'm really measuring is not the rhetoric so much as the movement of troops and activity. And the thing that I find reassuring is you haven't seen any military movement. I'm watching the logistics more than the rhetoric. You haven't seen a movement of troops, you haven't seen a movement of aircraft, or any uptick in activity by the North Koreans. And so for me, as I'm trying to assess the situation where it's going, I think the best thing to follow is that what military action we're seeing, what sort of consequential movement we're seeing militarily. I understand why people are worried, because the rhetoric is so vitriolic in some cases, and when you hear a foreign minister talking about the U.S. declaring war, it's understandable that people be uneasy.
Right. I mean, we have this president who is pretty volatile, and we're basing this off of some tweets that he sent, and then you have a leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un has done more tests in the last year than his father and grandfather combined. Missile tests this year, 19 so far. And we're seeing a level of rhetoric that we hadn't seen before in terms of both sides. The difference, I think, now is how the escalation is actually, you're seeing a direct result in terms of the tests themselves. So we'll see an exchange of rhetoric and then a missile test at a pace and a level I don't think we've seen in the past.
Based on your experience and your knowledge as well, do you feel that there are things that we're missing? Like, are there things that maybe we're focusing too much on a potential nuclear war and we're missing out on greater dangers, present dangers that do exist that people aren't talking about as much?
The North Korean threat vis-a-vis Iran, these to me aren't independent, but when we talk about sort of, the U.S. talks about changing the Iran deal, that arguably has an effect on North Korea and the ability to sort of negotiate, because one could argue that the North Koreans will say, if the U.S. is willing to pull out of the Iran deal, why should we enter a deal with the U.S. and what these deals and agreements mean. So to me, it's not that people are missing things, but I think that sometimes things are more interconnected than we realize, that one event is actually in some way shaping another one, or at least will have an effect on another one in completely different parts of the world, which I think is really interesting.
You wrote another piece recently about the cyber command the being elevated, increasing the level of power in the Trump administration. Trump's declaration of war came in the form of several tweets. How has, throughout your career, kind of the flow of information has probably changed a lot? How would you say that it's different now than it used to be?
I think the biggest change is social media, because when I started, you only got things through statements or through talking to officials or through, the stories we'd write about as a change in a word or a phrase that signified a huge policy shift. And now, I didn't anticipate 5 years ago that I'd be checking Twitter every morning to get a sense of where U.S. foreign policy is going, and that would be such a critical part of the job, or that how people interpret it would actually be so critical to shaping how people understand national security strategy. So not just that the president tweets, but how people react to it, how people interpret it. So it's a noisier environment in some ways, but also one where you're having to be more thoughtful about what you're choosing and how you choose that information in a way that's helpful to the reader.
Right, and you talk a lot about the importance of being embedded somewhere, understanding the culture of somewhere and the actual human beings. But all of that costs money. To send a correspondent costs money, to have a bureau costs money. Why do you think it's important to actually send someone and have someone who understands things.
Because I think in the day and age we live in, the national security issues we're dealing with are so complex and so nuanced that the smallest misread can lead to the biggest consequences in terms of misunderstanding national security events. I mean, I think we saw this with Arab Spring, where so many correspondents came in to places like Egypt and didn't know the culture or the background, or misread things like social media as a metric of the Arab Street. That it's those little details that make the difference between understanding and representing things correctly to a reader. I find that we end up painting things monolithically when they're so complex. So because it's easier, it's easier to measure the Arab Street from an English-speaking Twitter account than it is to actually go in and spend months and sometimes years understanding each neighborhood and the complexities and the rich histories that come behind opinions and assessments. And I just think we've seen time and time again there's a real world consequence of it, of people misunderstanding really important events in our time.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.